Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. How to machine polish your car with a dual action polisher for beginners in less than a day using high quality products that are all very affordable and getting very, very good results. That's the name of this video. Let's go, champ. Step 1 of 4, guys, deep cleanse your car. If you don't do this properly, going on to step 2, 3 and 4 is a waste of time. Ideally, you're going to have a pressure washer and a snow foam lance, and the first thing you should do is cover your car in your snow foam. Just make sure your snow foam is not one of these ceramic foams or ceramic shampoos or a shampoo and wax or a snow foam and wax. It needs to be a pure detergent that is there to clean, and I recommend Bilt Hamber Touchless, but use whichever one you've got. All of the products I'm talking about will be linked in the description to make this easier for you. When you let the detergent soak on the car for a few minutes, don't let it dry, go back in with your pressure washer and blast out the car. Really get into the nooks and crannies with the pressure washer. Never get too close, you know, always depends on the pressure, but blast out the gaps and the crevices because that's where a lot of the dirt builds up. Once you've done that, you've got two options. You can go back over the car with a traditional contact wash shampoo of your choice. Again, not a ceramic shampoo, not a shampoo and wax, a pure cleaning shampoo, and then go back over the car with your contact wash mitt and a hog's hair brush or a stiff detailing brush, again to poke in all of the crevices and pull out all that grime and gunk that gets built up in there and gets missed a lot of the time. So that's really important. These Chanels, you can use whatever wash mitt you've got. I just find these are quite safe on the paintwork overall and very affordable. Again, if you've got a shampoo on your shelf, use whatever you like, but Bilt Hamber, again, auto wash is a good choice because it's very affordable and you use very little. Alternatively, you can just save a little bit of your touchless snow foam, and after you've done your pre-wash, foam back over the car, cover it in foam, and then go and do your contact wash and just have a bucket full of clean water to wash out your mitt every time it gets dirty and wash out your brush. You get the idea, guys. If in doubt, clean the car twice. But cleaning it with a brush is just as important as cleaning off all of the panels. You do not want any bits of loose grit and dirt on there, okay? And when you clean off after the contact wash, again, use your pressure washer and get in all those nooks and crevices again one more time to make sure that it's really clean. Then you have a clean, wet car, and we're going to move on to stage DOS. Stage 2, decontamination. Sounds really, really impressive, doesn't it? All we're basically doing is rubbing an abrasive clay bar material over all of the surfaces of the car's paintwork that we're going to polish. You can rip off some of that clay, form it into a puck, put a few drops of your shampoo into a sprayer with some warm water, and that will act as clay lube, or you could use a pure waterless wash. Again, no wash and wax or waterless wash and wax, and no detail spray because you're going to be leaving material behind when we're trying to get material off. Go over each panel with your little puck of clay, nice and light but thorough. Putting plenty of lube on, that will stop the clay sticking to the surface, so it should all be nice and slidey. You'll notice a build-up of contamination like a brown film, tar and little dots of fallout and embedded dirt. Once that gets quite, you get quite a lot of dirt on the surface, fold your clay over to a fresh surface again, just to minimise the heavy marring that comes off of all that dirt as you rub it over the paintwork. Okay, it can take anywhere from half an hour to a few hours to clay a car. You're going to have to move quite quickly, guys. The aim is that once you've clayed that particular panel, it's then free of contamination. It should feel all smooth and glass-like. If it feels rough and bumpy, you've missed a few bits, go back over it. Very, very important. Again, the name of the game is to get all the contamination off the car, polish it to a shine, and then protect it to stop the contamination building up in the first place. How often do you need to clay? Well, if you're using your car all year round, typically after about a year of it being outside, it may need claying again. If in doubt, fill the paintwork after you've washed it. If you clay bar, typically you're going to need to machine polish afterwards as the most efficient way to take out all the fine marring that gets put in by the clay when you do it. That's it, guys. We've finished the decontamination now, and now we're going to move on to the machine polishing in step 3. Step 3, polishing, guys. Everything you see here in front of you is going to be included in the Forensics Detailing into Detailing Beginners polishing kit that I will link in this video. It's a first. It's a first. It's to make it easier, so you can just go and buy the kit and it's going to have everything you need. Now, I'm going to move the clay to one side. You will get that because the clay is part of the decontamination, not the polishing process. So what are these essential bits of kit here? Well, first off is the inter-detailing dual action polisher, the DAS 9. Comes with a 125mm plate, has a 9mm offset. So it's a relatively safe machine that still has plenty of power to correct swirls and polish up your paint, but is nice to operate. You can also fit this 75mm or 3-inch plate with it, and that comes with the machine. We're not providing you any pads in this kit with it because that's maybe a step too far, but you can go and buy the green Hex-Logic 3-inch pads and fit them on that plate if you want to, and that'd be good for intricate, tighter areas like your front bumper. Okay, what pads are you recommending? Well, I'm going to be recommending the Hex-Logic green polishing pads. It says heavy, but they're somewhere in the middle of their range, and the pads are actually quite soft. They're going to be good for getting a middle ground of a reasonable amount of cut and a decent finish, and they're relatively affordable as well. So I quite like these pads for starting out. You're going to have 2 of these pads, and after each set, you're going to clean out the pad with a brush, and we'll talk about that in a second. After about 10 sets, when this starts to warm up and get a little bit cakey, you can pull off the pad off the polisher, swap over to a clean one, put that in water to wash out for later on, and cycle between the 2. So you'll always have one clean pad. Very important to manage your pads. What compound or polish are we going to use? We are going to use the Scholl Concepts S20 Black True One-Step Compound. This contains no waxes or protective components, so it's not an all-in-one. It's a pure abrasive. So what you see is effectively what you get. The whole aim of this is to cut out deep swells, then break down, because it's a diminishing abrasive, to a high gloss finish. This is a quality German abrasive. It's tried and tested, and it's proven, and it's a good choice. We are also going to supply 5 of these Korean open or split pile soft microfiber cloths that are lovely for polishing. If you have really soft paint, these are not going to mar it. They're a very soft cloth that I use exclusively for buffing off polish for that reason. You don't want to introduce marring from harsh or dirty cloth. You've got 5 of them, so there's plenty to do a car there, guys. Keep them nice, wash them together in the same load. Don't wash them at more than, say, 40 degrees, and just use liquid non-bio. We're also going to give you a reel of this SP80 low tack tape that you can use to tape off things that you don't want to cover in polish. For example, you could tape around that badge. You could tape along that edge there so you don't get all your polish in there. All of your rubbers as well. Anything you feel like you need to tape off, you can. It can also be used to tape to protect the surface from the machine hitting it. So that's what you use tape for, guys. Now, we will move on and demo to you how to actually do your polishing set, because that is very important. Okay guys, we are pretty much ready to start. I just want to show you what you're dealing with here with this particular car. This is original Audi German paint that is absolutely decimated. This is not far off as bad as it gets, really. This has been cleaned with a Brillo pad or a brush, literally, and it's in terrible condition. It's terrible. So it's great to demo it on. Now let's just set the camera down here so you can see everything that's going on. Also very handy to have a good little torch, you know, a nice high-powered LED torch to inspect your work. And like we mentioned earlier on, a toothbrush, or I've got this lovely Rupes claw tool just to clean out your pad after each set. Now, the first thing you're going to do is take your bottle of polish and shake it. And I've just been shaking this for about a minute just to make sure it's all fully mixed up and none of the abrasives are settled in the bottom of the bottle, which is really important. Now, we are going to put 5 blobs, and hopefully you can see that, of polish onto this pad. 1, 2, like good baked bean sizes, guys. That's because our pad is bone dry and hasn't been used, so it's just 1 extra blob. Every other blob after that is going to be 4, and you can get a good idea of the size of those blobs. We are going to put the polishing cord up on our shoulder to try and avoid it banging on the paint. Okay guys, so we've blobbed out our polish onto a 2x2 section. That just gives us fresh polish everywhere and it reduces the chance of slinging. With our polisher on the minimum speed, we're just going to work that polish into a film very rapidly, and then there's no risk of it slinging. If we try and spread it on high speed, there's more risk of it slinging. Okay, so that's done. Now we're going to set our machine polisher up to its operating speed. How high do you want it, John? Well, I've got this somewhere between 4 and 5. When I'm moving the polisher around, I don't want to see it constantly stalling, so the plate's stopping. The plate will stop when I go over a raised edge or when I'm in a valley, which is normal, but you don't want it stopping all of the time on the panel. So just tweak it up till you feel it's comfortable and it's moving all the time. How much pressure should you put on the pad? Just a little bit, guys. Just put your hand on there and just push down a little bit. If you're pushing really hard, you'll flatten this pad off, and you've got to do that for the whole car and you'll be exhausted. So it's literally just the weight of your hand just to compress the pad ever so slightly. Remember, if you've got a smaller plate and pad on there, then it's going to take no weight to compress it at all. So try and be consistent. We are going to do 5 passes. What is a pass? That would be 1 pass. That's a horizontal pass. Then we're going to do a vertical pass. So that's 2. Then we're going to do a horizontal pass. That's 3. Vertical pass 4. Horizontal pass 5. Okay. Normally, I would advise on most paintworks that are not destroyed like this, that 4 passes will be enough, and that is your polishing set. I'm going to do an additional one because my paint is very, very bad. Are there any other things I need to worry about? We've got 1 swage line here, so I'm not going to polish up and down that swage line aggressively. I'm going to sort of work over it. It's not a problem because it's not a really aggressive line, but try to avoid polishing on raised edges, okay? Other than that, let's get started and you'll get the idea. Hopefully you can see this as well, guys. Let me just check that camera. Yeah, you got a view of everything. So let's go. So that's a good speed. It's not stalling. Nice and slow. 50% overlap is very important. You must overlap. Okay, so that's 1 pass. Just going to push the speed up a little bit. Why? Because I'm noticing a little bit of stall there. That's a nicer operating speed. Okay, that's 2 passes. Now we're starting our 3rd pass. Hoping you can see this. Nice and slow, guys. Let that machine work on the surface. So this is the 3rd pass. Keep an eye on your polish. You don't want it to dry up on you. This is a very long polishing set, but we're going to need it. This is the 4th pass, I believe. And now we're moving on to the final pass, guys. Thank God. We won't be introducing any heat here. Okay. I'm rushing a little bit because I know you guys are going to be getting bored. Just bear with me, bear with me. Avoid doing this. Avoid that like the plague. You're not giving it enough chance to rotate on each bit, okay? So avoid turbo polishing. Now, some of the key things, 50% overlap like we talked about, because the pads tend to lift on dual action polishers around the edges. If you're polishing over there, don't polish up to the edge, polish over the edge, or else if you're polishing up to the edge, that lift will mean you won't get the edge complete. So bear that in mind. If you're trying to polish this pillar, you're going to need to tape up all along it so you don't cram all these with polish. Anyway, the cool thing is at the end of our set, we still have an oily film on the car, okay? Now, if that ever starts, you're polishing and it ever starts dusting up on you or going dry, then something's gone wrong and you're not managing your product. S20 is an oily abrasive and it shouldn't be dusting, okay? We've just used it. There's no dust at all, or very little. So you've got to manage that. Now, one thing before you buff off that thing, take your pad, and don't do this near the car, do this outside your garage or outside wherever. Clear off this old residue of polish because that's full of clear coat, and if you don't get rid of it, it keeps getting hotter and hotter and drier and your pad will dust. So after every set, clear this off, and you can lower the speed back down as well so it doesn't go haywire, and away you go. So I'll just do that now. Don't do it near the car because you do get little cakey bits coming off, especially around the edge. And you just want to be able to see the pores in the pad after you've brushed it. If it's all caked with old polish, that's bad news. Okay, the next thing to do, guys, is we want to buff this off. So we take our microfiber pads, microfiber cloths, I always like to keep them in this 4-way fold and get the 4 corners. So one corner will have all 4 corners open. 2 of them will have 2 opens and 1 of them have no opens. That'll get you thinking. Take your cloth and just buff in gentle circles. That just keeps, if you keep going one way, it won't come off as nice. So little buff, it's like a better mopping kind of action. That's the way to do it, gently. You shouldn't have to put tons of pressure when you do this, okay? I'm going to leave a little bit of polish around the edge so we know where our edge line is, okay? And let's do that. Just so leave some polish there. And you can always flip. The good things with these towels, you know, pinch the 4 open edges under one thumb like that, and then it never balls up in your hand, if you pardon the pun. Right, the moment of truth, guys. You now take your torch and you have a look at your work. Now, this is not going to be perfect. So just to show you beforehand, that's what it's like before we started polishing. This is what it's like after we started polishing. And that's had a radical difference. That's actually really impressive. What is left here, it's not left because we've missed it. It's left because it's deep. So we've cut away all of the stuff which is not so deep and left the stuff which is deep. Now, how many times can you actually buff on this car before you run out of clear coat? We've covered that subject in other videos. In this particular video, you're going to do one thorough set, guys, because the moment you start doing more than one, your chance of getting this done in one day diminishes. But you can see a massive improvement, and I promise you, when you get that outside in normal light and you've not got this powerful torch on it and you're not right up close, that paintwork will look quite good and poppy. That looks terrible, okay? So you can make a big difference to your paint, but do not think you can get perfection on a car this hammered. You'll never get this car perfect, actually, and you shouldn't attempt to, because if you keep doing set after set, you're eventually going to run out of clear coat, and then you're going to lose that gloss finish and get a little footprint of a matte finish, which tells you you've polished through. But with one set, that is very unlikely to happen, okay? The next step now, guys, is stage 4, where we have polished the entire car, and then we're going to go and protect it. While I talk about that, I'm also going to do another set right now on this more tricky wing to show you how to proceed on other parts of the car that aren't as easy, like a curvy wing. The quick version of that is you do your best to maintain your consistent set of 5 passes in my instance, or 4 in yours, as best you can. And it's not that difficult, so I'll overlay that as we move on to section 4. Whew, Jesus. So now you've machined, polished the entire car, we're going to take our double speed paste wax, take the lid off, take the applicator that comes with it, and just try and pick up a little bit of the wax, a little gentle dab. If we've got a massive thick layer of wax on there, we're going to have all tram lines and trails of wax. And when that wax sets and dries hard, it's going to be harder to buff. So without getting too complicated, we just want to put a thin layer of wax there, and you can do that just by working the smaller amount of wax that you've got. You could do half a panel at a time, you could do a quarter of a panel at a time. Just make sure you don't use too much. So it should just feel like a really thin film, and it should be a little bit harder to spot. And just work it gently in circles, because that'll make it a little bit easier to spread. If you want to go in straight lines and cross hatch it up and down, be my guest, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you get it all around the edges and you don't miss any bits. Now, we're going to leave that wax for 5 to 10 minutes to cure, and then we're going to buff it. If you're applying a paste wax to entire car, you'll just move on to the next panel. If you did the entire car, by the time you get back round to the front, it might have been on for like 20 minutes, you know, which might be a little bit excessive, so it might be harder to buff. So you could do half a car at a time, play around with it. You get the idea. Once you've done that, buff off the wax with the microfiber towel provided, or one of your softer towels if you like, clean microfiber towel, which I'm just going to do now, and I'm just going to buff gently in circles. Always get that edge with the clean bit of the cloth. That's always important. In fact, I sometimes like to buff just the outer perimeter of it first. It's just some sort of habit I've got. And then just keep going until you've got it all off. The key thing with the paste wax is to get some light on it, and keep turning your cloth often. And when all sides are saturated, go to a different microfiber towel. This wax is really durable and it beads like crazy. There is one final tip I want to get you. Let's change the camera angle. So now that the wax, or the last stage protection, is applied, you've really got one more job to do, guys. Just get another clean microfiber towel, get some detail spray. In this instance, I'm going to use Bilt Hamber QD, mixed down 1 to 9 with filtered water, which makes it very economical. Link in the description. Go round the car, look for smudges. Have a torch if you don't have good lighting in your workshop or garage or outside. Keep an eye out for smudges, and also go around all of the panels. Pop up the bonnet and look at the edge for little white lines of polish that you've missed or have got stuck on the edges. All of the door lines, the gap between the doors and the wing mirrors, for example, that's a place where polish can build up. All around the gaps between the rubbers and the door seals, etc. So there's none of that unsightly white polish. Once you've got that off, guys, you are finished. There you go. That's your guide to polishing and protecting a car in one day. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things we've missed in this video. Put in the comments some of the things we haven't discussed. We could have gone into more detail about tape. We could have gone into more detail about degreasing before the wax went on. But essentially with a paste wax, the durability won't be massively compromised by not degreasing the polishing oils. And indeed, it's okay to wax over the top of a freshly polished car, but you're not going to do that with a ceramic coating or perhaps even a bonding sealant. So that's not something we've discussed. Plenty of other things, guys, so put in the comments what things you think are critical that we've missed. But I promise you, you can get really good results with this. The key thing is to not rush as you start going around the car. Don't do a really good job on your bonnet and wing and then do a terrible job on the roof and rear bumper. Try and be consistent. That's the hardest thing I find, is being consistent. We all want to speed up. We all run out of time. So plan ahead, do your best, enjoy it, and it's really good fun and it's really satisfying. And this is just the start to your journey detailing cars, and I hope it's been really useful. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. All of the stuff and the kits, you can get the polishing kit from Into Detailing, will be linked in the description of this video. Take care. Bye for now.